Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for being with us. On behalf of the CSJ Center for Reconciliation and Justice and the Sisters of St. Joseph of Orange, I want to welcome you to the Center's annual symposium, this year entitled Faces of Justice, Deepening Encounters and Confronting the Struggles. Any of you who have gotten a personal Gmail from me recently will recognize a Tolkien quote from The Lord of the Rings, where Frodo and Gandalf, in the middle of a classic epic journey, rest for a moment deep in the heart of a dark mountain. Frodo tells Gandalf, "I wish these things need not have happened in my time." Gandalf reminds him, "So do I, and so do all who live to see such times." But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. Frodo is a good example of the classic theme of the Annuim, the simple everyday person who, because of her commitment to friendship, fidelity, fundamental human values, achieves what all great wizards and warriors cannot. Most of us are not wizards or warriors, so this week we celebrate those often hidden among us who achieve what they do by commitment to human dignity and the love of the, as I say, quote, the love of the dear neighbor. And that last quote, some of you will recognize as coming from the CSJ founding documents, the love of the dear neighbor. Presenters you will meet this week challenge us to see how we can either support their good works or, as wizards and hobbits have to do, look to what we can do with the time that is given to us. The symposium has evolved over the years, much as society has. We have moved from the past emphasis on listening to needs, educating, consciousness raising, to a time when we are hosting presenters who don't just talk about but have found ways of doing transformative social action. I see those changes evident in an increased awareness and a participation in grassroots movements towards community service and community building, as well as a growing awareness of the need for one another and what that really means to be building life-giving communities. Over the next 3 days, there will be many varied panels, workshops, performance presentations, a kind of smorgasbord from which you can indulge as you, when and how you wish. So I welcome you again as we begin a journey together to explore some things we can do with the time we are in and the time that is given to us. So let's open the 2023 CSJ Symposium that is about faces of justice, about deepening encounters, about confronting the struggles. I will now turn this over to Bryant Keith Alexander, Dean of the College of Communication and Fine Arts, who will introduce tonight's opening ceremony, which celebrates the arts as social action. Dean Alexander.
Thank you, Sister Roya. My name is Dr. Bryant Keith Alexander. It is my pleasure to further welcome you to the 2023 CSJ Symposium, Faces of Justice, Deepening Encounters, Confronting the Struggles. The three presenters for this opening ceremony come from varying aspects of the arts, between the College of Communication and Fine Arts and the School of Film and Television, each presenting aspects of the visual, performative, and expressive arts, all offering diverse audiences deep experiences in which we confront the realities of our humanness in place and space, in relation to our faith, and in relation to the socio-cultural and political issues that impact our daily lives and our planet, as we all stand on the verge of being and becoming with biblical proportions. Each speaker addresses critical artistic expression in differing modalities to illuminate the power of the arts in the processes of information, formation, and transformation of self and society, encouraging a whole person experience of mind, body, spirit, and imagining ourselves anew and activating our role in both social and environmental issues and the service of faith and the promotion of justice for a world desperately in need. Each speaker introduces us to the allure of the arts through the aesthetic properties of beauty and wonder that are not always just for aesthetic pleasure or entertainment, but serves as a vehicle to touch the most tender spaces of our soul and our psyches that both augment our sense of reality and draw us dramatically into the all too real, offering us emotionally immersive experiences of being in worlds only imagined and dreamed of, but also inviting us to critically confront the realities of every day to which we must all attend as our social responsibility. Each presenter invokes art as social action, not just a showing, but as a critical doing, a technology of knowing, as a mirror to our current realities and strategies of intervention for our future possibilities through a dialogue on the transformative power of beauty. Each speaker introduces art that invites, beckons, and triggers, as well as demand that we respond in fold, not just to the internal excitability of desire and beauty and animation that art often engenders, but how do we make manifest our commitments to the service of faith and the promotion of justice, and thus art that promotes an informed citizenry to activate us all into motion, to work towards social and political change on behalf of the other and our planet by deepening our encounters with our faith, which is both particular and plural, and confronting the struggles of the everyday that impact our tomorrow. So on behalf of Sister Judith Royer, we welcome you. Enjoy.
Good evening. Thank you, Sister Judith and Dean Alexander, for that introduction and for the opportunity to welcome everyone to this opening event entitled The Arts That Do Justice. Tonight, I'm excited to share an artist-led tour of the Laband exhibition entitled On the Verge. On the Verge is a show that I curated last fall that illustrates how the visual arts can do the work of social justice. In this case, by representing the dire conditions our planet faces due to global warming. On the Verge offered an unprecedented display of painting, photography, sculpture, and video installation, all created by an artist named Luciana Abait. Luciana's striking artwork that you can see behind me shines a light on issues of environmental fragility and climate change. In this recorded piece, you will join the artist on a tour of her solo exhibition. Luciana is an immigrant from Argentina, and she draws from her own personal feelings of displacement and vulnerability to urge us as viewers to consider how climate change is wreaking havoc, especially on the lives of the most vulnerable communities of people. I hope you enjoy your virtual visit to the Laband.
My name is Luciana Abait. I'm a visual artist originally from Argentina. I moved to the United States in 1997, and this is my exhibition on the Verge. This exhibition presents different media such as photography, painting, video, installation, and AR, through which I explore climate fragility and environmental change. I also question and reflect how these changes affect the lives of immigrants around the world. This piece is entitled The Maps of Freitas. I created this work in 2018, and it's made up of a collage of maps of the world, all assembled in a total random order that I created myself. The randomness of this map talks about the way we feel as citizens of the world, that we have lost the logical order. This piece talks about specifically about borders, about immigration, and about environmental issues. I created this piece inspired by the Syrian crisis in 2015 when I read about refugees trying to cross the ocean, the Mediterranean Sea, trying to reach Europe. And what I want spectators, when they look at this map that has become mountains, is to feel what immigrants feel, that when they're standing and they see all the land of the world, all the countries of the world, but there's nothing that they can really belong to. So my idea is to create a sense of empathy in spectators. Another part of my exhibition presents my iceberg series. This iceberg series was inspired by some news that I read in 2017 about a piece of iceberg that had broken off Antarctica and that was floating aimlessly on the ocean. And scientists were trying to figure out where this piece of ice was going to land. I found this news very tragic, but at the same time, I found a very direct relationship with my life as an immigrant, because I found the idea of drifting in the ocean, of trying to find that final place to call home, that final place of belonging, so close to what I was going on. This is how I started developing these works. These are all imaginary landscapes that I create with my own photographs, and photographs that I grabbed from encyclopedias, magazines, and that my friends sent me. So I put together a personal memory with a collective history. And as much as these works talk about environmental issues, they also talk about a very personal immigration history. And I think it's also a very universal history of immigration. This piece is entitled The Wheel, and it's also part of my iceberg series. It deals with environmental issues as well as with immigration issues. These icebergs are very lonely in a sense, and what I wanted to recreate here was the loneliness felt by immigrants around the world. This scene at the same time is very surreal. We see a Ferris wheel in a totally desolate landscape. So it presents a sort of post-apocalyptic world, a world that may have been devastated due to climate change. This series is entitled Road Trip Series, and it's a series that is inspired by the American West. Through color alteration, I have created these emotional landscapes that deal with environmental issues and depict land devastation, excessive droughts, and raging fires. This particular piece depicts Lake Powell, which is the second largest water reservoir in the United States, and that it's only full up to 24%. Although the colors are very beautiful and very bright, it also talks about tragedy Lake Powell was a beautiful valley that had its own ecosystem, and that then was flooded with water to create this water reservoir. So all that lived there died, and now it's drying up again, so it's becoming a dead pool. So this water that is black is very meaningful, and it is very symbolic about all the devastation that is going on in our environment. These pieces belong to On the Verge series. They are purely photographic pieces with no alteration of any kind. From a distance, they look like these beautiful, idyllic landscapes, but as we get close, we can see all the invasion by humankind into nature. We can see a parking lot, we can see water pumps, we can see even garbage containers, a bridge. And in this particular piece, we can see two tiny people, and actually these are the only two people in the whole exhibition. And I think this is really important to highlight, because these two people are so minuscule within this landscape. And this is also a reflection on how small we are in this world, and still we are able to cause so much damage. So I hope also I can create some awareness and reflection about this fact. This video installation is entitled Agua, and I was inspired to create this piece during a road trip while I was in Zion National Park. I was standing in a river in the Narrows, and I was looking at the water running over some rocks, and the beauty of the sound of the water and the movement. It was just absolutely something incredible, and I just thought I need to create a piece that I can show to the world the beauty of this moment. This piece was inspired by the flood myth, and as I started doing research on the flood myth, I discovered that it exists in many cultures and religions, but it is always related to the idea of being reborn and being cleansed. And when I first presented this piece, we were all coming out of the pandemic, and I thought it was so meaningful that people could stand under this virtual waterfall and feel the effect of being reborn and being cleansed and start life all over again. Also, when we think about this piece in environmental, on an environmental point of view, we can think that real waterfalls are drying up, and that in the future we may only end up having virtual waterfalls to remind us of what real waterfalls looked like. The underlying theme of this exhibition is hope. Through the creation of these very beautiful and contemplative pieces, I aspire to inspire hope in spectators and in the public. Environmental scientists have studied and have proven that if they tell the population that there is no hope, people will stop fighting and they will give up. But instead, if people feel that there is hope, people will continue to fight and will try to make a change and make improvements in the environment. So through my work, through presenting these beautiful landscapes, hoping that my work makes the public reconnect with nature, I hope that that people can be inspired and make a difference in this world and in the environment.
Hello, my name is Bernard Brown. I am an assistant professor of dance here at LMU, a choreographer and an activist. I had the great fortune this past fall to create a work that was in conversation with Luciana Abait's on the Verge art exhibition. In visiting her work at the Laband Art Gallery, I was struck by the grandeur and the epicness of her artwork. In the work's vastness, I felt a sense of loss. I ultimately related this loss to that of the HIV/AIDS epidemic and the generation of people that are no longer with us because of this epidemic. The common thread that weaves this work together through these catastrophes is neglect. Getting to work, I invited student artist Kelvin Bank to be part of this creative process. In doing so, we were able to connect through a lens of mentorship. This mentorship serves as an intervention, countering the experiences of so many like me who lacked mentorship because of this generational loss. My choreographic work on the Verge, Soil, Stars, and Song is a vocal and movement meditation and installation contemplating what the world lost in the 40 plus years of the HIV/AIDS epidemic and the parallels of neglect that are present intersectionally in racism, homophobia, and the climate catastrophe. What you'll see today is a video document of that performance experience, and this document was created in collaboration with Isaiah Kim. Neglect, systems of oppression. It's through this active, effortful inaction that a whole generation of folks have died. Today is World AIDS Day. And so this is a call to action. We need to do something. There needs to be action. So what can we do is a question. How will we support our fellows? How will we support the next generation and leave this place a bit better for them? Neglect no more. Thank you. The soil is full of secrets. The earth is full of saints, sinners, and all those in between. The earth is full of saints and sinners and all those in between. 41 years ago, neglect. The first 5 cases were reported. 41 years. 41 years. 41 years. Math. Minority AIDS Project began here in 1985. In 1985, Minority AIDS Project. In 1985, Minority AIDS Project began because Black and brown queer men were not getting the help that they deserved on this soil. In Los Angeles, Minority AIDS Project was created in the gap of the neglect. The gap of neglect for Black and queer men dying. The soil is full. The heart still beats, the water flows, the groove is not gone. The groove is on pause. The groove is not gone. The groove was on pause. The circle is unbroken. The circle is unbroken. The circle is unbroken. Thank you.
Hello, I'm José Garcia Moreno, Professor of Animation and Director of the Academy of Catholic Thought and Imagination here at Loyola Marymount University. I remember growing up in Mexico City and going to the Immaculate Heart of Mary's Church with my family. It was an inspiring experience, not only due to the scale of this church, but mainly because I was fascinated with the murals, the drawings, sculptures, flowers, and of course its gigantic stained glasses. Certainly I was not, and I must confess, hearing much of the Mass, but I was enthused and captivated by the images and the stories that were contained in them. It was a feast as I was a kid for my senses, colored rays of light coming through the windows, music resonating through its unreachable dome above us, and the permeating smell of the gladioli. It was really an immersive experience. And I was standing there, kneeling and standing, and again sitting and standing and kneeling, and sometimes praying in mumbles and reminded by my father all the time to pay attention. But really, my mind was somewhere else, watching the stories in those murals while listening to the chorus that sounded like angels. And the Immaculate was filled with visual stories, some terrifying, some mysterious, but all of them transformational by the power of their beauty. Spirituality is filled with stories. It was like what I read in a book by Jeff Dietrich, that faith is nothing more than the stories we believe in. 5 decades later, I experienced something like what happened to me at the Immaculate, a sense of wonder, of art and spirituality just coming together. I will never forget attending the Collegium, the Symposium at St. John's University in Minnesota, and my senses exploding at my encounter with the St. John's Bible. The St. John's Bible, as some of you know, is a work of art and a work of theology. A team of artists coordinated by Donald Jackson in Wales and a team of scholars in central Minnesota brought together ancient techniques of calligraphy and illumination with an ecumenical Christian approach to the Bible rooted in Benedictine spirituality. And the result, what I saw there, was this living document and, of course, a monumental achievement. I was enthused by those illuminations from the St. John's Bible. Some of them were shining with gold, and others twinkling calligraphy like if they were moving through the pages, with animals climbing the pages, with images that felt so contemporary, but also so relevant. They were vibrant, and I could not stop thinking that everything was in movement inside that Bible. Next, at St. John's, I go running around trying to ask if anyone has done an animated intervention with the images of the Bible. Could I do it? I ask. Could I put this Bible in movement? And people from St. John's said, sure. And probably they were really amused to see my enthusiasm. But then they said, do you know that Loyola Marymount University owns the St. John's Bible Legacy Edition? And Donald Jackson, I later find out, directed the making of the Heritage Edition throughout the entire process to assure its fidelity to the original. So the pages were printed using state-of-the-art offset lithographic printing technology from the Heidelberg Corporation. And Mr. Jackson actually approved every single page before the final printing. So correspondence to the original was really very important. And this, you can actually see it when you see the Bible. The show-through caused by the transparency in the vellum of the original Bible was actually captured also on the pages of the Heritage Edition. So the paper of the Heritage Edition is designed specifically for this project. The weight and the feel of the cotton pages that Donald Jackson actually selected approximate that of the vellum using the original manuscript. So after printing, gold and silver foils were applied using a series of stamping and embossing processes. So in places where results cannot be achieved through mechanical means, Donald Jackson's studio manager, Sarah Harris, has hand-treated those illuminations. So therefore, which is really exciting, no two Heritage Edition sets of the St. John's Bible are identical. So I went nuts. Back at LMU, I talked to John Sebastian at Mission and Ministry and to Cynthia Beck at the special collections in the Hannon Library, where the Legacy Edition actually resides. And to be honest, no one really knew what I was talking about because I was mumbling about building a mutoscope that will project holograms, and that I intended to use augmented reality to create an immersive experience. And this immersive experience will enhance the appreciation of the art of the St. John's Bible, because I said, obviously, and I firmly still believe that modern technology should be used as a ministry tool, and that it is clear that this, our present time, is not only the era of the image, but that one of the images in movement. And that the St. John's Bible may be a vehicle for discovery of spirituality for younger generations if we use state-of-the-art technology. So it was, in a way, my intention to share with others that sense of awe that I perceived when I was a kid looking at those stories drawn on the walls of the Immaculate. And everyone, of course, they said yes enthusiastically, because I was really, I guess, enthusiastic, but really no one really knew what I was talking about and what this project will look like and if it will actually work. But in any case, they trusted me. So, well, then I created Icon Animorum as an homage to the work of Donald Jackson and all those artists that designed and manufactured the St. John's Bible. So what I had to do is to actually put together an international group of artists and engineers and designers and involve my students in an experimental animation class. And so we created and use all this immersive technologies, hologram projections, augmented reality, digital projection, animation, traditional animation, textiles, and traditional painting. So my intention was that Icon Animorum will create an artistic new experience and reveal to the LMU and the Los Angeles community the extraordinary and monumental achievement of the St. John's Bible. So Icon Animorum is meant to be also space for interreligious dialogue and interreligious conversation for greater understanding and appreciation of the transformative power of beauty. But why was it important to work with augmented reality animation? And my answer is because you force your audience to interact with this art exhibit through a mobile device. And the phone is intrinsically connected with the mind of younger generations. So the plan was to lure people to the third floor of the Hannon Library, where the exhibit of the Legacy Edition was displayed, by placing what I called trigger cards. So each of these trigger cards had a quote, the art of the illumination related to it, and the way to interact with your phone with the image in order to trigger the animation. So it was a huge success, and we had thousands of clicks during the exhibit. And those who were actually lured to the third floor found that they could use their phone and also activate into motion the illumination as they were interacting with the real thing, with the Bible. So the quotes were written in cards that were written in those cards were intended to amplify the idea that the Bible is full of complex and engaging storytelling, and it's not an old book with no consequence for a modern life. So, for example, the Ten Commandments, a painting by Thomas Ingmeier. I have always been fascinated with typography and calligraphy, which are major components of the St. John's Bible. The first time that I saw Ingmeier's painting of the Ten Commandments, in fact, what I saw was a manna of words turning into sparkles of revelation. Next is one of my favorite scriptures. I found that it gives the reader a way to contemplate the inevitability of the cycles of time. That is what the Ecclesiastes frontispiece is done for me. It feels so relevant today. A time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. There are two very important Bible symbols in Donald Jackson's illumination for the Ecclesiastes, and that is that of the raven and the clock. So with this idea in mind, we created a sense of circularity for this augmented reality animation. The Woman and the Dragon is marvelous. It is a story that feels so much aligned with other religions and draws from deep roots from ancient mythologies. When the dragon saw that he had been hurled to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. Some theological interpretations actually align this fragment of Revelation directly with the Virgen de Guadalupe. So what I wanted to show for this illumination is an important leitmotif that Donald Jackson actually uses in the St. John's Bible repeatedly, and that is that of the serpent. Now, a holographic mutoscope is a hybrid concept created to bridge the recollections of stories of our past with the absorbing and volatile experiences of our present. It is clear that this, our present, is not only the era of the image, but that one of the image in movement, an era of icon animorum. These artifacts are reconstructions, pre-cinematic arcade machines, built with technologies of our dynamic present, such as laser cutting, industrial foam printing, digital holograms, digital table projection, and three-dimensional animations. A holographic mutoscope, the way that I envision it, is that it searches for the possibilities of our new reality, in which the digital space does not remain only in the virtual world, but manifest also into our physical reality. This project was born inside the mind, translated into binary objects of the virtual world, and finally emitted and manifested into physical objects. This project is also cinematic. The holographic mutoscope is a film theater in miniature that allows only one spectator. This theater has the form of a shell, and inside the shell, there's a prize, which is a pearl, in the form of a glass pyramid, which also contains a movie screen and projects the holograms. As always, since the days of the mythical cavern, our moving images are ghostly, but essential. And finally, we created something more abstract, rhythmical, only in black and white with glimpses of gold. I love what it is said in this piece because it is filled with irony, very much in the tone of our times. I chose this one because I wanted to answer simple questions. How do I show them that a sacred text is never old, but intense, vibrant, explosive, raw, and always new? How do I tell them that faith is just the stories we believe in and that art is a way of praying? How do I say that we cannot lie in wait for the righteous to come? Let us lie in wait for the righteous man because he is inconvenient. Let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us not spare the widow or regard the gray hairs of the aged, but let us our might be our law of right, for what is weak proves itself to be useless. Thank you.
Let us lie in wait for righteous men. Even know the secret purposes of God. For God created us for incorruption,